Well, what's up again, guys? Brian here at 3TR. Welcome to the next episode of People's Questions. We got a pretty standard episode this time around from most of y'all regulars. I think there might be like one or two newbies. We'll jump right into them. The first question comes from Goku-san, and you want to know, would I like to see a Shepard versus Wesker match on Death Battle? No. I don't know where you get the idea of Shepard and Wesker going at it. That seems completely just incompatible. I mean, okay, Wesker's got a few super enhanced abilities. Big deal. Shepard has fought in multiple alien species and saved the galaxy from the Reapers. I mean, that's far greater than anything Wesker could ever do. So I personally think that a match like that is just uncompatible. It's not balanced. Next question comes from the Immortal Super Being, and you want to know, would I like to see a prequel story to Dead Space game telling the story of how the marker got to XIII? Having read a number of the other novels, I don't really think we need to see how that marker got there, because ostensibly, even if you told the story of how the marker got to that planet, it wouldn't really be all that exciting, because obviously the Necromorphs would not exist, and so you would simply just have a story about a bunch of explorers placing a gigantic stone that puts out this signal that can affect dead cells out. Not really all that interesting. Next question comes from Demetrius Puffer. Who do I think would win this three-way fight? CW's Arrow, Netflix Daredevil, or DCEU's Batman? Batman would obviously win. Let's run this down. The first guy who's going out is Arrow. I'm sorry. Get him away from his bow. He's completely useless. I'm sorry, that is the truth. And Batman and Daredevil would have no problems dealing with him. So Arrow's out of the way. So now you have Daredevil versus Batman. If Batman figures out that Daredevil is affected by sound waves, I think that's what would probably... I think that is what would probably give him the edge. I think as martial artist, I think Batman's a little bit better. Daredevil would definitely put up a fight, but I think Batman's gadgets would affect Daredevil's sight. Like, for example, he has this one device that when he fires it, it gives out this massive sonic wave. I mean, you can see it at the beginning of Injustice 1. That pretty much, you know, makes every single guard in the area completely drop because the sound is just too intense. If he uses that and Daredevil is nearby, Daredevil is pretty much screwed. So while Daredevil would definitely put up a very good fight against Batman, I'm just fairly certain Batman would win. Next question comes from Tanuki Player, and you want to know, what/who got me into reviewing video games and films? I would say there was a couple of YouTubers. It's a little bit cryptic, because there was one YouTuber, specifically Angry Joe, but I didn't want to use his style, because he's more of an he has the ability to go into very great details, but be kind of entertaining. I'm not a very entertaining person, at least I don't think I am, and so I'm more of being informative. So I'd like to kind of just give you the initial facts, what you need to know, leave a few details out that if you are curious, you should find it for yourself. I shouldn't have to tell you just about everything you need to know about the game. I think I need to tell you what you should know if you're interested or shouldn't play the game itself. And I guess when it comes to movies, there were a few YouTubers, but I would say the primary source is a friend of mine, which, believe it or not, some of you may know. The channel is actually named after her. Whether or not she knows that or not, I think I've told her that, but she probably doesn't remember that. But that's really the beginning of how this channel was really started. I would just to keep it simple. Next question comes from Zyborg136. You want to know, what game needs to have a remaster for PlayStation 4? Ooh, there are two that come to mind. I would really love for them to bring Dead Space to the PlayStation 4. I think the graphics updates would really make at least the first two Dead Spaces look really good. The other game that comes to mind is Ni no Kuni. I know that the sequel is coming out, I think sometime early, either late this year or early next year. But I absolutely love the first Ni no Kuni so much. It was probably the best RPG that I had played since I was a kid playing Final Fantasy X, which was back in 2001. So to have a chance to play that again on the PlayStation 4, I think would be a great treat. Next question comes from Matt Cruz, who wants to know, what is my favorite scene in the Star Wars prequel trilogy? That's kind of hard because I will pick a sequence, but if I could pick a specific scene, some people might dislike me for this, but the one scene that really stood out to me, a specific scene, is the scene that Anakin has in Episode II, where he's talking to Padme and he's kind of explaining exactly what he did and why he feels he needs to be why he feels he needs more power. I will say this: Hayden Christensen in that film wasn't really that good. I think he had the character down in Episode III. I don't think he had it down in Episode II. But I would say that that is the one scene in that movie that is his best scene by far. You can feel the sadness, you can feel the anger, and you can feel that this is the driving force that will make him Vader. It starts there. And I don't think there's a single scene in that movie that illustrates that more than that one scene. I mean, I know some people might want to pick it apart and notice its little flaws, but that is like the one scene that stands out to me out of any of the prequel films that I would openly defend and say that as an individual scene, not a sequence, but as a scene, that one is my favorite. Next question comes from Cassidy J. Williams. He wants to know, am I excited about Toy Story being added to Kingdom Hearts 3? Yes. You know, I love Toy Story. I would say the Toy Story trilogy is like one of my ultimate favorite trilogies. It's a three-way tie in terms of my favorite Disney film. So the fact that they finally want to add it to Kingdom Hearts is a great treat. It might even be one of my favorite worlds to visit. Might be, if I can, I think I would make that the first new world I would want to visit. Next question comes from Diadrive CJ. You want to know, what do I dislike more between Final Fantasy XIII and the Star Wars sequels? Obviously it's 13. The problem I have with the sequels is I understand exactly what they are doing, and it is clear that this is Disney Star Wars. They're pretty much taking everything that makes Star Wars what it is, and they're diluting it. Now that's bad, don't get me wrong, but I still have all the Star Wars that came before Disney. It's still there, it's still relevant to me. In fact, the way I see it, I don't even like to acknowledge any of the new Star Wars sequels canon, because I think it's wrong. The problem with 13 is the fact that Final Fantasy, without question, although Metal Gear Solid is my favorite franchise, I would say that Final Fantasy is the franchise that made me the type of gamer I am today. It made me a story-driven gamer. Final Fantasy VII, to this day, is the single most important video game I've ever played. So when you attach that name Final Fantasy, there is a certain legacy and name that you have to live up to. And as far as I was concerned, when I started playing Final Fantasy when it came to 7, that had been consistent. It had been consistent in 8, despite the fact that I skipped 9 and went to 10. As far as I knew, Final Fantasy could do no wrong. Now, don't get me wrong, there were a couple of games that were a little bit off, but it was more of an experiment. The fact that they made an official numeric entry as terrible as it was with 13 just felt like a complete spit in the face. It was a terrorist attack on the franchise. It was one of the most horrifying experiences because I had never seen a franchise fall so hard. And the fact that the sequels that followed were somehow worse, which I didn't even consider playing or even giving a chance, is a testament that shows that Square is in a position where they feel that they, at that time, could do anything they want. They could slap the name Final Fantasy on anything, and we fans were stupid enough to buy them. Well, that wasn't officially the case because Final Fantasy XIII's 2 and that bullshit Lightning Returns thing were the lowest selling Final Fantasy games as far as I was concerned that we had had to date. It was clear that nobody liked 13, no one asked for a sequel, and then the farther away we get away from these games, the better. Sorry. Next question comes from Alucina, or Sienna. Oh, I said that right. I'm really bad with names. And you want to know, who do I think will win a fight between Doomsday or Lobo in both DC? If both were hard to kill, who do I think would win? Doomsday and Lobo? I think Doomsday would win. It's a little. I mean, there's a number of elements that would play into a match like that, but I think Doomsday would overall win. Next question comes from Jalen Bradford, who wants to know, who do I think would win a tag team match between Alex Mercer and James Miller versus Deadpool and Doomsday? Another Doomsday character. I'm gonna go with Doomsday and Deadpool. I think they just have too many abilities that Alex Mercer and James Miller just wouldn't be able to handle. Next question comes from Black Rabbit of Inil, and you want to know what is my favorite animal? That is a jaguar, no question. Next question comes from Yoda Date, and you want to know what is my favorite Wesley Snipes movie? Ooh, that's a tough one. It's a tie between Demolition Man and Blade 2. I'm probably leaning more towards Blade 2 because that is more his film as opposed to Demolition Man, where it's kind of him and Stallone's film. So I guess I would pick Blade 2. And the last question of the episode comes from Abil Z, and I answered this in the comment section. You want to know, have I ever thought of making my own website? I actually kind of have a website that a lot of my content gets uploaded to. Not too many people really know about it, but in terms of a dedicated 3TR channel, I've thought about it, but I think having a website would just add a little bit more work to my schedule, because in order to keep a website going, you have to constantly go there and maintain it. And I think that if you have that unless you have a lot of time on your hands, in order to maintain a website like that, you would really need a few individuals to help you out, and I just don't have those resources. And with that, those are the questions that you guys sent for this episode. I'd like to thank all of you guys for making the episode possible. If you guys have any more questions you'd like me to answer in next week's episode, be sure to type it in the comments down below. But make sure you get them in to me before next Wednesday before I start filming this, and make sure it's only one question per person. And like always, thank you guys for watching. You're awesome, and I will see you next time.